Satnam, aloha everybody. Welcome to the live stream. And if you can put your name and where you're logging in from, that would be great if you feel called to do that. So I'm on here again, clearly. And just wanted to have a little quick look at the chart here. And let us know how you're doing too through these times. Okay, me and the zodiac. There we go. Okay. Okay. So there's the chart as of today, as of like this moment. And we're on May 31st. Can you believe how fast this year is going? It's just crazy. We're almost to June tomorrow. So I wanted to talk about the Sutras, the Aquarian Sutras, and then how they tie into the shadow pattern that we find ourselves in now. So this also ties into the new moon, right? So the new moon was in this 16 up here, right here. So wherever you have, like, that's the sun glyph and then the earth glyph, those two are called programming partners. And that means they're the opposite of one another, right? So if the 16 is in the zodiac sign of Gemini, and then the 9 is in Sagittarius, right? So I wanted to talk about this shadow pattern, this 9.6, and you see where the heart is, right? That's coming off the sacral, that 9. And it's the shadow of inertia. It's the shadow of inertia, and it's the gift of determination. And the dilemma here is perspective. So you may have experienced inertia yourself when you're, just a sec till I get this here. Okay, get this out of the way. So these transits that we're in, they're really cosmic forces. They're really cosmic forces at work. You know, a lot of these, they're called neutrinos. They're subatomic particles, and they're connected to these shadow patterns. And they're coming from our solar sun, right? So we're all being influenced by this. They're subatomic particles, but they have weight, which means they carry information. So they're kind of guiding us in a way, and that gives me a little bit of comfort to know that there's a grander plan at work, right? Because it looks so chaotic out in the world right now, that there's actually a underlying intelligence that's guiding us, and this is these neutrinos. 70% come from the sun, and then the other 20% come from Jupiter, and then the 10 from the other stars. So we're constantly being bombarded by neutrinos right now, like trillions and trillions of neutrinos are penetrating, because they can penetrate through solid objects, and then they leave information, right? Because that's all we are. Our body's just an information field, right? So these transits really show us, and if you study this long enough, you start to hear the collective actually using these words, right? Which is really wild to me. You know, it's like, oh, even the collective mainstream news is being influenced by these transits, right? Usually at the shadow frequency, though, right? Not the gift. So this shadow frequency are the little small things. Like inertia is about the little tiny things, little things that drain your energy. So it could be like clutter, right? Clutter is like a big energy drain, because when you look at something, everything has a frequency, and it's a reminder, oh, I've got to do something about that, right? I have to take it to the trash, or I have to take it down to Goodwill or into recycling or something. And it's like this, and then drains your energy. That's like an example of inertia, because you don't deal with it, right? You don't deal with it, and meanwhile it's just draining you. So this is the power of the small, it's called. That's the ancient term for the 9. This 9th gate is the power of the small, how these little small things can drain your power from you, right? And they build up, one small thing after another after another. It could be like negative thoughts that you're having. That can drain your energy too. Well, it's just a thought. Well, that thought builds on another thought and another thought and another thought, and then it creates a perspective, right? How you view the world, and then it creates a behavior, and then that behavior creates a character, creates your character. So this shadow pattern is showing us, because it's so connected to the new moon, right? Right? It's connected to the new moon too that we're in, is to deal with these little small things, right? But we have to deal with that force of inertia, and it's a force, right? So in terms of perspective, you know, when you look out at the world, I mean, here's a perfect example. Look out in the world and you can see what has to be done, you know? Like all these systems are being torn down. The energy of the Aquarian age consciousness is bringing all these structures down, our governments and our health system and our educational system, our marriage institutions, all of that's crumbling. You know, and you can look out as one individual and think, oh my God, there's so much work to do. Like, where to start, right? Where do you start? Where do you start? And it can be overwhelming. And that's the inertia, right? On a global stage, that's the inertia. Like, it's too much, right? It's like, because the mind gets trapped in all the little details that you have to do. And then you get in this force of inertia, and then you're kind of paralyzed. You can't move, you know? So, this, what was I going to say about this? So you can see where we need to go, right? Even in your own personal life, you can see, like, this is where I want to go. I want to go over there, right? I have a goal or a desire, and I want to be over there. And it seems so far away, you know? It seems so far away, and however will I get there, you know? And then the 16, the shadow pattern of the programming partner, the 16 is indifferent. And inertia, and it's like, well, I might as well just give up. You know, the force is too great. So it can cause fatigue, right? It can cause fatigue, and it can make you a victim of your mind, you know, of the thoughts of your mind. So the gift here, right, is determination. And we think of determination as just, you need all this big act of willpower and be determined, and every day you're up and you're just going for it and persevering, and that's the ego's version of determination. Determination is just making a baby step, right? That's the secret of goals, of achieving your goals, is every day. It's about repetition. That's what the 16 is about too. It's mastery, right? 16's the city of mastery. It's about getting up every day and making that baby step. It's like, okay, I can see the mountain that I have to climb, right? You don't look at all the steps to get there. That's the overwhelm. That's the inertia. You look down at your feet, and it's like, okay, what's the next step? And what's the next step? And what's the next step? And sometimes it doesn't appear. The path doesn't appear until you start making the step. Have you ever noticed that? It's like you finally get to the pain is so great to stay in a toxic relationship or a toxic job or a toxic living situation, but the pain is just so great. It's like far increases the pain of actually leaving and moving into the unknown. It's just, I have to do something. I have to do anything. I have to get out of this, right? And then you just make a step. I've done that in my past, like been in really bad living situations and said to myself, or like here, my first place that I lived on, Maui, it was perfect for me at the beginning, but I totally outgrew it. It's like it was way too small and it wasn't working for me, and I was trying to talk myself out of my feelings, and my feelings were like, oh, I don't like this place. It's not serving me anymore. And meanwhile, the universe is putting all these pressures, right, with the people and all this. It's like, go, you need to go, you need to go. And I got to the point, it's like, I don't know. It's like, all I know is I can't stay here. So I have to just trust, and I put my full trust in the divine to guide me somewhere else. And you're guided, right? The path appears, right? But you've got to get to that point of making that baby step. And the baby step is to take an action, right? Especially if you're feeling crappy. And this ties into the Sutras, right? So each day, right, you're making a little baby step. And so this moves you out of inertia. As soon as you take one action, one little baby step, It's like, I don't know how this is all going to work out, but I'm just going to take that first step and I'm going to do that. And then this builds a momentum, right? And every day, if you find yourself in that state of inertia, it's like, I'm going to do a baby step, whatever the baby step is that I can make today towards the goal. And then you don't let the mind get overwhelmed. So it's about your perspective. Like, of course, you've got to see out into the future where you want to go, right? But you don't, if you stay there all the time, nothing gets done. That's when the force of inertia comes in, and then, right, you don't do anything and you don't achieve your goals. So it's all about perspective, and it's all about celebrating the little victories that you do, you know? It's like exercise, right? I started exercising in January, and I used to love, like, because I was an athlete, right, in my 20s. As soon as I started meditation, I dropped it all, which is funny. But it's coming back, and it's like, I just started small, you know? It's just like, okay, I'm going to get up and I'm going to do this, get on my exercise bike before I meditate, and I'm going to just do 5 minutes, right? You work with your ego. I'm just going to do, what's 5 minutes? What's a big deal, 5 minutes? And then it builds on itself, and then it snowballs, and now I really look forward to my exercise and my workout routine, right? So just little things like that. It's the little things. So your meditation practice. I don't want to meditate. The ego is like fighting you, like, I don't want to meditate. No. It's like having a little child tantrum sometimes. And I've done this in teacher training and Kundalini yoga teacher training. I had to deal with my inner child that did not want to meditate, right, at all. And I would say, okay, and I would refuse, like my arms wouldn't move, and I'm very a disciplined person, right? And I would work with myself. It's like, okay, I'm going to sit in the space, right? I'm going to get up, and it's like, you don't have to meditate, you don't have to do this exercise, but you're going to sit on the sheepskin, and you're going to set your timer for 11 minutes. And I would work with myself like that. It's like, I'm just going to get up and I'm just going to sit there for 11 minutes. And then it was like, okay, I'm going to do it for a couple minutes. Oh, I'm going to do it for 10 minutes, right? And then this builds the momentum. That builds the momentum. So you work with where you're at, because that inertia, it's about keeping it at bay, right? So I love the ancient I Ching, right? They talk about that a king, and he had an adversary, like, you know, side by side, and they're located, like they're in different countries, right? And how he kept war at bay. It's like keeping war at bay was through friendliness. I love that. Through friendliness, he kept war at bay. Couldn't we learn a little thing or two about that? You know, it's about being friends and diplomatic and negotiating and working with one another, and that kept the war at bay. So this is what this 9 is about, right? The power of the small. It's the little things that have a lot of power. So these small successes that you have, they add up to big, big victories, right? So you want to look at your goals and watch. You'll watch your mind that stops you from going forward. I've seen this with so many people, especially if you're born during this time, you know, in Gemini or Sagittarius, because it's flipped, right? The 16 and the 9, that you know this. It's like, I've got to do this, but it's so big. It's like, I've got to clean out. I knew one woman who had the 9, she was a Sag, right? The opposite. And she would go on and on about it, the attic that she had to clean out. And she just got so overwhelmed by it. It was such a metaphor for her life, right? But it kept her stuck. And I just said, even put a time limit on it. It's like, I'm going to only spend 10 minutes doing this, right? And then you'll notice that you have small victories, right? Like, yes, the power of the small. So let's look at the Sutras. I want to bring these in more. They're not talked about a lot. And these are the 5 Aquarian Age Sutras. So the Aquarian Age that we're entering into is the Age of Enlightenment. So it's like an awakening. And, Patanjali, the father of yoga, was there 155 sutras or something like that? And they're really complex. Well, in the Aquarian Age, they're reduced down to five sutras, and these are guidelines to live by. So what a sutra is a knot. It's called a knot. The sutra is a knot, and it's complex. Basically, it's like complex spiritual teachings reduced to a sentence or a couple words, so that the student could remember them. And it also keeps it hidden from, because there's conquerors, right? They go right for the spiritual knowledge. They want to destroy all spiritual knowledge, right? And that's how they start to control the population, through that. So this was a way of protecting the spiritual knowledge. It's like the tarot, right? The tarot are archetypes, and it was the same idea. It was like to protect the spiritual knowledge, and the conquerors didn't know, right? It's like, that just sounds like a riddle to me, because of their consciousness. But the sutra would come to a spiritual teacher, and then the spiritual teacher unwraps it, the sutra, right, and expands upon it so that the student can understand. So that's where this sutra comes from, these sutras. And so the 5 Aquarian Age sutras are recognize the other person as you, which I talked about. This is the soulmate, twin flame Aquarian Age relationships that are coming. That's the grounds, right? That's the school that you learn this, recognize the other person as you. There's a way through every block, and when the time is on, start, and the pressure will be off. Understand through compassion, or you'll misunderstand the times, right? This is not about going into judgment, what we see out in the world. It's about going into your heart, you know? And then vibrate the cosmos. The cosmos will clear the path. So those are the 5 sutras, and I'll do a video on each one, right? It's just too long, right, to go all through that and do a good job on it. But this one I want to talk about, this Aquarian Age Sutra, and this is connected to the shadow of inertia. So when the time is on you, start, and the pressure will be off. When the time is on you, start, and the pressure will be off. So you may be feeling this yourself, this pressure of time. And this is the inertia, right? When you're feeling this pressure that you have to do something. And it's through time. But remember, time is just, it's the mind, right? Time is an illusion, right? The past and the future. It's just always in the present now. We're always in the now moment, right? So when that pressure is on you, you can experience it as stress. You're like feeling stressed. I'm feeling really, really stressed and agitated, right? And I know that I've got to do something. And then the inertia comes in. It's like, I can't do anything. That force is it's an actual force, right? It's that shadow force of inertia. And I can't. It's like, start. As soon as you make that baby step to whatever that baby step looks like, then the pressure will be off. So this is a really good signal for you when you're not, it's like, I need to do something. I need to make that phone call. I've been meaning to do that phone call. And then you pick up the phone for whatever it is. Maybe go see the dentist or connect with somebody like that. It's part of your soul's lesson, right? It's like, I need to do this. And then you get to the phone. It's like you're filled with the inertia, the fear. And then I'll say that, and then they'll say this, and then what will happen there? It's like, you just make the baby step. You just get on the phone, right? I've been doing this with the dentist, right? Working with myself because I'm like, have such a fear of dentists, right? It comes from my ancestors, it's bones. So I would start off small. It's like, okay, I'm going to ask my friends who their dentist is. I'm just going to ask, and what do you think of them? And then the second step was, can I get their name and number? Right? That's the second step. And there's like weeks in between each of these steps, these baby steps. And then the next step was like, okay, I'm going to phone and see how much money it's going to cost me, right? And then the next step's make an appointment, right? And then so on and so on. But as soon as I start making those steps, the pressure's off. So when you're feeling this pressure, we all know what this feels like, this pressure. It's like, I got to do something, right? I have to take action here, right? It's just like as soon as you do that baby step, boom, the pressure releases. So it's showing you, right? If you backtrack and renege, like you commit to taking action, and then you backtrack, you feel this despair. Your feelings and emotions will tell you where you're at in terms of your consciousness, because the soul is communicating through your emotional body. Remember, we go from the frequency to physical to mental. No, physical, emotional. No, wait a minute. Frequency at the bottom. I need my picture. So frequency, and then emotional, and then mental, and then physical. That's how it travels, right? And we're going back to frequency, consciousness. So this is the frequency would be like your soul is communicating through your emotional body first, right? And then the mental, and that's the mind, right? If the mind's corrupt, which most people on the planet, their mind is corrupt. It's a foreign installation, right? It's not really our mind. It's not the mind of God, right? So the emotions tell you. It's like, oh, I'm gonna take action, and I'm out of my grief, and I'm out of my sadness and despair. I'm gonna take action. And then you go to take action, and then you backtrack. The mind is like, what if this happens? What if that happens? You don't know about this, you don't know about that. And then that's the inertia. And then you go back into that state of despair and feeling crappy again, right? It's your emotions telling you. But as soon as you take that action, I'm sure everybody on this video, watching this video, can relate to that. That when you finally do take that action, and then you're like, why didn't I do this years ago? Right? Why was I postponing? What was I so afraid of? And it's the ego, right? The ego in the shadow keeping you from moving forward in your life. So meditate on that. Like where are you feeling this pressure of time? Because the time is what the mind, right? It's just a pressure coming from you. It's coming from your soul, this pressure. And then the mind interprets it as time, like time is running out. There's only a window of time for me to do this, So to take the action. And you got to go to that space of what do I have to lose, right? What do I have to lose? I have everything to gain, and I've got nothing to lose, What's the worst that can happen? And that you'll face it. Okay. The other thing I want to mention too, before I look at the comments and we get into the cards, is the last video I did with. You'll notice that I'm taking the live stream, and I'm going to edit them down to a smaller amount of time by theme, because people get turned off. It's like an hour and a half. I can't watch all that, So it's about drawing people in, because they feel this pressure of time, right? I only have so much time to watch YouTube videos. So just to keep that in mind, because I really feel for you, right? The people that watch all my videos, to like, oh, this is just a repeat. But you know what? It helps to repeat, like to watch it again. Because I find that with myself, if there's something really important that I'm reading, and where you tune out, if this has happened to you, like you'll read something and you tune out, and it's like, oh, I forgot that paragraph that I read, and you go back and you read it, and it's like, oh my God, that's so brilliant, and that's exactly the information that I needed to read, right? So that's what the ego does, will block you from certain information that you really need to receive. So I often find that if I listen to something again, it's like oh, I don't even remember hearing that last time, or it goes into it in a deeper level, because your consciousness has changed. So it may help, right, to listen to things again and repeat, right? Japa, that's japa, meditation through japa, this repetition, and how we learn, right? That's how it gets in. So speaking of which, So the last video, the Soul's Calling one, and then the longer live stream, I talked about alcohol, right? I talked about alcohol. And what I wanted to add with that is in addictions, right? Alcohol and addictions, is that you'll notice with tinctures, they put alcohol in tinctures, and what the alcohol does is draws out the essence, out the essence of something. So what it's doing with the human, why is it called spirits, right? That's the ancient word for alcohol, like alcohol, spirits, because it draws out the spirit. The alcohol draws out your spirit, right? So that these negative entities can come in, and it's a real thing. It's not some woo-woo conspiracy theory thing. We live in the angel realm and the demon realm, and then we're in the human realm, right? And the demon realm's real. It's a real thing. So you want to be protecting your energy, and especially you don't want to be having drunk sex. You know what I mean? Where both parties are drunk. The demons love that, right? When that combo happens, because you're taking on, sexual karma is real. It's huge. You take on the whatever entities that other person, especially if they're an alcoholic and a hardcore addict, that ugly drunk, they completely turn into like angry and aggressive and maybe even violent and cruel, and right, that's these entities on them, right? And they feed off other people. So you want to watch that, right, with alcohol. Like, be really cognizant when you do drink alcohol or enjoy alcohol. Like, be really, why am I doing this? That's all. It's like, why am I escaping myself right now? Am I trying to numb out? Like, really ask yourself those questions while you're drinking alcohol. Because like I said in my last video, there's a reason why it's so all over the place, alcohol. Right? And this is the spiritual war that we're in. And speaking of which too, like the new moon's in Gemini's the twins, right? So it's about making your choices now. Like everybody on the fence. There's been so many fence sitters for the last while, right, on this planet. It's like, I go to my weekend workshop, my weekend spiritual workshop. I listen to Abraham Hicks and all the new agey stuff that doesn't take me out of my comfort zone, right? The Secret, all that stuff. And then I'm back in my other world, right? In the system, right? Work in the system with my job, and it's like, I got bills to pay. You don't understand, right? I have to have this job. Those people are being forced to make a choice now. It's like the rift is becoming greater and greater of the dark and the light. You're seeing it, right? So the dark is then this shadow of inertia and indifference, right? That's 16. It's indifferent. Like, what can I do? It's just too big. I'm just gonna go along to get along. Right? That's the darkness. It's siding with the darkness. You know what to do. You know what's right. You have a soul, right? You have a soul. Your soul's going to guide you. Your intuition's going to guide you. What's correct for you? And that's choosing the light, right? You're choosing to be your own inner authority. You're choosing to follow your intuition and your heart, regardless of what and who is around you and the propaganda, right? That's the choice, where this new moon is about choosing. Am I going to choose that person because, he's making good money? He's making good money. Oh yeah, he works at Big Pharma, but he's a good person. And if things go down, he has a house and a farm and food, and that's going the dark way, right? Going the light way is like, I'm totally trusting in God and I'm going to live my best life, right, in this lifetime. So the other thing I wanted to say too is the meditation for a broken heart. I've heard some people responding back, and so I'm putting that link again because I really want people to practice this. And this is the root of why people drink alcohol, is this broken heart, right? So, what was I going to say? So some have said, and it depends where you're at in terms of your heart. You know, if your heart's been closed down for like many, many years and you're finally just getting in touch with it because, you know, during this time, our emotional body is just blowing up, right? The collective emotional body's blowing up. We're forced to feel our hearts. And some people, it's like the first time they felt their heart since they were a little tiny tot, right? So sometimes, because in the West, right, we want instant gratification. Okay, I did it once, it should work, and then I'm done, right? Went to a weekend workshop for enlightenment, I should be enlightened now. So the ones that practiced, you know, and it's like, well, I didn't really feel anything. I didn't really feel anything. Well, you got to do it again. This is what this shadow of inertia is, right? This determination is you just keep doing it. You keep chipping away at it. I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to do it again. And often the Kundalini yoga meditations have been like that for me. You know, it's like I'll get to like 30 days in a row or something, and then I'll have some kind of breakthrough. So you want to stick with it. Don't go. It really works, right? This is a technology that's 5,000 years old. It's 5,000 years old. And it's made for these times that we're in right now. So it really does work, but you need to commit, right? And just do it every day, that repetition. And it will work. It totally will work. And you got to watch your mind, because your mind can be distracting you away from your heart. And you start thinking about things. Well, I got to do this when I finish my meditation, I make breakfast, and I got this meeting. It's like you got to bring yourself constantly back to the present moment, right? Because that's what's real. Your mind doesn't want you in the present moment, right? That's where your power is. So do that. And then if you have shoulder pain, often you'll get like with this, because it works with the heart meridian, right? You want to hold your arms up like parallel to like lock into the posture. It makes it worse when you're shifting and changing. It's like you want to lock in. You just lock in, and I'm not moving. I'm not budging, right? The pain may come up, pain in the shoulders. So the mind will make it into physical pain. Well, that's physical pain. I'm hurting my shoulders. I'm hurting myself. I got to put my arms down. You don't want to listen to that. Right? What that pain is emotional pain. That's the emotional armor that closes you, especially if you're not receiving love. Like it's really, you don't trust somebody that's showing love to you, right? You'll have this like armor in the back, right? I had that for years and years, all this shoulder pain, and it would be excruciating, like painful for me, but then I caught my mind, and it's like my mind is turning this into something that it's not. It's making a story about it. But if you stick with it and you let that music, that Shabakuru, like that's such beautiful music, that Simrit Kaur, I love that rendition that's on the video, and it just penetrates right to the heart. It's angelic. You feel like you're in the angelic realm being healed, right? Through that Shabakuru. So I encourage people to keep practicing that. It's free. It's on my website. There's links below that I put where you can buy the music, right? Yeah. And this, especially if you have alcohol issues, you want to go to the root, right? The alcohol's not going to work anymore. These drugs and addictions aren't going to work anymore. Okay. So let's look at some comments. Yeah, Rachel Reed. These sutras are wonderful. Yeah. They are, and there's only 5 of them. You don't got to get overwhelmed like with Patanjali, right? So we got Diana from Minnesota, C.A. Patterson from Connecticut. Okay, from, wooden person. I don't know what time it is in Australia, Sydney, Australia. You know I'm in Hawaii, so we're closer. And Robert from Wolfville. Lynn from Vancouver Island. Yeah, living in total non-attachment and letting spirit guide me. That's the way to go. That is the way to go. Non-attachment to the mind. We've got to practice that, right? That's our new authority, is the spirit. And remember, the spirit's communicating through these emotions, and you've got to do your inner child work first, and then you get to feeling tone, right? You've got your three major emotions: anger, fear, grief. Anger, fear, grief. And they get trapped, right, in that 0 to 7 years old. But that's spirit, like your soul trying to move through and communicate you through feeling tone. It's called feeling tone, right? And then it's bumping up against these childhood wounds. That's why spiritual awakening can be so emotional for people, right? And Angie B, SoCal, Southern Cal, California. Hot and sweaty in New York. Must be hot there. In the UK, Florida. Hello, these past live videos have been very healing for me. I'm loving the shadows, the gifts. Yeah, totally agree with Luna. Thank you for sharing. Jen Goodwin. I know I had to clean the house today because I couldn't handle it. Yeah, because I get like that too. I get overwhelmed by physical things, you know. Clutter really bothers me. And I just start off small. And even that, like, tidy up a certain area in your home. And now it's just a habit. I'm just going to start, you know. And then it builds the momentum. And then suddenly you're done, right? It looks great, and you feel great too. Yeah, so not waiting, right? C.A. Patterson, that's the trick. You're not waiting. This is the inertia. I'm waiting for something to happen. It's like, take the action. The language of the Aquarian age is action. It's just take an action. Take a little baby step. Yeah, baby steps. Baby steps comes from What About Bob? If you've ever watched that with... what's his face? Bill Murray. It's hilarious. What About Bob? Baby steps. But no idea of a mind. So, well, Jen Goodwin, that's a good question. Definitely feeling a lot of pressure, but no idea what first step to take. That's when you want to listen to your intuition, right? Like, just go deep inside and put out that prayer, because the mind is going to, like, try to keep that intuition from reaching you, right? And that's where the heart happens, right? The heart is like kryptonite for the mind. When that heart opens, it's kryptonite for the mind. The mind becomes like, you know, like a boxer that's like punch drunk, and he's like down, he's going down, he's going down. That's the mind. When that heart energy opens up, and then you've got this clear channel right to your intuition, and then everything becomes clear. So just right, and just making that, okay, I want a little baby step. I want my intuition to tell me a little baby step. And then you make that first step, and then more comes. You don't got to figure it all out, right? You don't got to figure it all out, the whole plan. It's just one baby step at a time. And doing anything different, I mean, you know, sometimes we get so caught up in our ruts. It's just to do something, anything different than I usually do. I'm going to break out of these patterns, because these are ancestral patterns. I'm going to do something completely different than I usually do. I'm going to do this. And that breaks you out of inertia too, right? Because this is not the time to be doing the old way and going to the past. You know, as a humanity globally, we can't go to the past. That's what we're being called to, really step into the new, and not the negative powers version of the new, right? The Great Reset and everything. We're going to have our own Great Reset, and it's called the Great Awakening. That's what's happening. That's what they're trying to stop us from embracing, right? So we need creativity, right? We need new solutions. And that's actually one of the other sutras that I'll talk about in a future video. Jamie Withrow says, I have family members that have mental disorders. Are these going to be healed? It would be great to be able to see that. Yeah. Well, we're going to see more and more mental health issues, right? Like dementia, Alzheimer's, things like that, bipolar, all that. We're seeing it now, right? We're already starting to see it. And this is like it's an attachment to the mind, right? Like modern medicine goes, it's a chemical disorder. No, it's a spiritual disorder. It's a spiritual problem, right? Those people that are really clinging to the mind, I need my mind. I need to figure this out, right? We've been conditioned to worship the mind. They're going to have a hard time because their identity is so connected to the mind. And I've noticed with people that are professors and things like that, like they're in their academia and it's all about getting their value from their mind. It's like I'm seeing that more in that population. So I feel that there's going to be, because of creativity and innovation that's coming for the Aquarian age. The Aquarian age is the archetype of Aquarius is new, it's futuristic, it's humanitarian, that we're going to see more of this innovative healing, right, come up. And as people awaken to their own healing gifts, the way that the consciousness works is when we need something, it appears, right? During the Ice Age, that's when we discovered fire, right? When we needed fire. So these things will just start to appear as our vibration. I feel like it's already here, like everything's here, but we can't see it because we're in a lower vibration. So when our vibration raises in the earth, Mother Earth, then these things will just start to appear. Like the solutions will come up as we need them, right? In med beds, do a search on med beds. I want to research more about that, right? This is this new innovative healing, right? Because surgery and like our medical system is so archaic in some ways in our dentistry. There's got to be another way, right? A more gentle way. And I really feel that we were back in the times of Mu, right? Lemurian Atlantis. We're the technology. That's what I keep telling people. Like all the stuff out here that we see, it's just a reflection of us. We're the power. We have the technology inside of us. We just have to start unlocking it. We've got to start remembering, right? Remembering. It's not learning. It's about remembering who we are. And then all these gifts will start to come forward for all of us. Like all of you listening have a gift to share, to contribute to the world. And it may not even have been seen before. Like maybe it doesn't even exist. You got to get out of this paradigm. I got to get a job. Right? So I can get money, so I can feed myself and survive. You got to get throw that paradigm out the window and know that you're a creator. Like you're creating, right? You're contributing with your gifts and they all come from inside you, And it's not about you fitting yourself in. I've got to fit myself, this great soul, and I've got to fit myself into this little job and slave system, because it's really a slave system, right? It's like, no, I'm a great creator. What do I want to create? What do I want to contribute to the world? Do you see? It's this inner-outer reference that I talk about. You have to become more and more inner referenced. C.A. Patterson's laying down something here. There's probable Impossibilities by physicist Alan Lightman. People want to check that out. The long sessions are like a meditation. It's true. These short little soundbite videos, I can't do those, right? Because you're tuning into my energy right now. Do you know what I mean? And the energy of others that are watching too. And it takes time. We got to have more patience. Yeah, it's very soothing, Jen Goodwin says. I like the videos on the background, yeah. Sometimes I'll listen just to Eckhart Tolle or Muji, and I'm not really listening to what they're saying, like the content. Like their content's great and everything, but it's just their frequency. Right? Sometimes I'll just listen to like I'm not taking it in intellectually. I'm like just taking it in because they're coming from the same pool that we all come from, the pool of truth. But we all have different expressions of it, right? Okay. These sutras are wonder of the broken heart. So healing. I found myself crying, yeah. But a good cry. And then the relief comes. Yeah, do it more whenever, however much you're called to do it, Jen. But remember, like too much nectar, right? Too much nectar can be bad for you too. Like really tune into yourself, because sometimes you'll do it and you'll feel really, really raw, you know, especially if you just start it. Just like really, like it's this about self-love, you know? You don't want to overwhelm yourself. Okay. Oh, thank you, Jen. Thanks for being you. Oh. Okay. Denise says, I literally sent you questions on your website before live stream. You answered them, yeah. The brain's overrated. Yes. Right? Our whole educational system's all about developing the brain, the left brain, not the right brain, the left brain. We don't learn about our emotions. We don't learn about what it means to be human. We don't learn how to communicate and relate to one another. We don't learn any of that stuff. We're taught to be a good slave so that we can go into that system, right? Yeah. C.A. Patterson, yeah, surround yourself with people who are comfortable with the uncomfortable. Yeah. And people like the long videos. That's great. Okay, so let's do some cards while we're here. I love these cards, the ego cards. Because you get to learn about your ego and how it works. Because that's really our enemy. It's not out here. They're all our enemies inside the ego. Okay. So what do the people need to... What's the ego telling the people? I'm going to get more meditations too up on my website. That's a commitment. So I have my to-do list. And that's the thing with inertia. Sometimes it's just good to get it just out of your head. You know what I mean? Because that can cause stress. Well, I've got to do this and I've got to do that. It's like, just get it on paper, right? Make the big list. That's what I do. Like make a big, huge list of things, and then it's out of your head, right? And then you can be clear. And then, right, one at a time in terms of priority. It's like, what can I do today? A friend of mine, she had a great idea. She made little cards, because she's a life coach and worked with people like that had this shadow of inertia, you know, and they would get so stuck and they wouldn't get things done. Their place would be a mess and cluttered, and there'd be like little cards, and you'd pick a card. Okay, I'm going to do this today. And they were like little 5-minute tasks. And then there was another pile that were more like 20-minute and then an hour. So you'd pick what day to do those. But just to get the momentum done, it would be like a little card. And it would be like, you know, clean the fridge or something like that, you know? That's another way you can work with the shadow of inertia. And then the time. I really like the time limit. I'm only going to spend half an hour doing this. And then the energy will come, right? Because the inertia drains your energy. Oh, I don't have energy for this. But as soon as you make that baby step, then the universe gives you more and more energy. Okay. So what do the people need to hear about the ego? Okay. So the card is power struggle. And you can see the two people at each other's throats fighting the power struggle. Right? So in terms of inertia, just to bring it back to the shadow of inertia, this is the power struggle between the mind and the heart, right? The mind and the heart, or the mind and the soul. This is the power struggle and we're in right now. And we can see it on out in the external world, right? What are we going to be ruled by? The power struggle of light and dark, right? Duality. Who's going to win, right? Who's going to win with this power struggle? So if you're seeing power struggle, like let's work with the mirror, right? The universe is a mirror. It's an emotional mirror. It's going to show you, especially relationships, will show you exactly your relationship with the divine. So if you're in power struggles with people in your life, right? Maybe you're in a power struggle with someone in your life. You need to be right and they need to be wrong. Whatever the power struggle is to bring it back to yourself. Okay, I'm seeing power struggle in my life. What's this about? And what does that person that I'm having a power struggle, what do they represent in me? Right? What do they represent in me? You know? I'm trying to think of an example myself with power struggle. What's coming to me here? An inertia. Third chakra stuff. Yeah, it's just the ego, right? Let's bring it back to the ego, not wanting to surrender, right? Not wanting to let go. And we're going through an ego death. That's what the Aquarian age is all about. We're going through a great awakening and the ego is clinging to its identity. So if you're identified with a certain job and a title, right, and your ego's getting lots of kudos for that title, right, and then suddenly the universe steps in because you're not busting a move, you're in the shadow of inertia, and you have like a tower moment, like in the tarot, like, and you lose your job, there can be like a power, it involves loss, right? There can be this power struggle. No, who am I if I'm not this, right? Who am I if I'm not this? Right? Because this power struggle is food for the ego. The ego lives off this power struggle and conflict. And we're seeing power struggle out on the external, aren't we? People struggling for power, political power, right? Right now. And this is it's to hold on to that identity, whatever identity attachment you have, which needs to go. So I love the mantra. This mantra is awesome. It's, I am nothing. I am nothing. Like I'm a nobody. I'm nothing. And the ego doesn't want to hear that, right? What do you mean you're a nobody? That means you're a big loser. No, it means that I'm not attached to any identity, right? Because the ego wants to be pumped up and inflated. You're the best teacher and you're the best this and you're the best that. But whatever goes and pumps you up like a big balloon's got to eventually burst. And that's the fall from grace. And it's like, you're the worst teacher. You're horrible, blah, 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 right? It's duality. So you work, with one comes the other, right? On this earth plane. So it's best to, like, I'm a nobody. I say that to myself sometimes in the back of my mind. There's no attachment here. I don't care how they view me or see me. I don't need that. I know who I am. The thing is, when you know who you are, then you're not affected right by these games, these power struggle games. So look at that, like where you're in power struggle and where are you wasting your precious energy that can be directed towards manifestation and creativity, right? With what you want to create. Yeah, and in terms of inertia, this is what's stopping you, right, from making the baby step. It's like, just make a baby step, whatever it is. And it's the 8, you know? We're in that 8, still in that 8 energy from the chart. Because Mercury's still in the 8, is about being your authentic self. That you're not these costumes that you wear, you know? Those costumes can be taken away. It's no big deal. You're still there, right, as you. Yeah. We get so identified with our titles and what we do and in life and all that, right? It's do instead of be. Okay, let's see what's underneath this. What's she saying here? Too many towers, yeah. I know, but the towers liberate you, right? The tower moment to me is Uranus, the planet Uranus that I've talked about before. And that's that sudden, like Uranus is Saturn, the planet Saturn's all about repression and keeping the status quo, keeping things down. And then Uranus is coming along, who's our true father. I mean, I won't get into the mythology here, maybe in another video. But liberating us. And liberation always sounds great, doesn't it? Yes, I want to be liberated. But you're liberated from the known. That's what we get liberated from, is the known. And the ego is like, what? Right? Because again, it's these attachments. We get liberated into the unknown, but that's what's real, right? That now moment. So that's the tower, where the tower is like, this is not working for you. Well, C.A. Patterson is not listening to her intuition. It's time for some divine intervention. And in comes the tower moment, right? And then the people, the tower card, come falling. Because there's no doors in the tower. You'll notice that picture, right? There's no doors or windows. But this is the tower moment that liberates you. So you can start anew and build something like solid. Towers are all, a tower moment is built on sand. It's not real. And that's what our institutions are, towers, and they're coming down. Okay, so what's coming after power struggle? For the people, what's underneath power struggle to help? What's underneath power struggle to help? Oh, just what I've been talking about. Okay. So you can see that's creativity. Creativity. And it's a person that's painting out in the countryside. So this is divine energy, right? This is divine energy, creativity. So that's what this is keeping from coming through. This would be the inertia. Like fighting against your mind, right? Fighting against your mind, fighting against other people, fighting against your soul, your mind, fighting in ego, fighting your heart, what your heart's telling you to do, to keep in there. Because this is inertia, right? Or inertia is no movement. So you got equal pressure on one another, right? You don't move, right? There's no movement at all. This is movement, right? So this would be like in astrology, a square or an opposition, right? And this would be the diagonal energy, the trine, right? And a trine is the square. You don't like to see squares in astrology in your natal chart or transit chart. So think of a square, and what this creative energy, I call it tantric energy, it's like diagonal energy. It comes and splits through the square, and then you've got two triangles, and those are trines, right? And you always love to see trines because that's the supportive energy, right? So if you find yourself in this duality, should I do this? Should I do that? And you're going back and forth with the what ifs. Well, what if I do this? This will happen. What if I do that? This will happen. Is to go for the third option. I've got this option, I've got this option. What's the third option? And that's the creativity. What's the third option? There's always a third option. Remember, we come from the one, the void, and then out of the one comes two. Always two. So it's going back to the one, right? It's going back to that one and going to the energy that's coming from source. And creativity is something that the mind hasn't thought of before, because the mind's all about the past, right? Even the future, it's projecting from the past into the future. Well, this could happen. I got hurt in the relationship last time, so I'm going to get hurt in this relationship, right? That's what the mind does. It's all the past. It's made up of the past. So where was I going with that? So creativity is new, right? It's new. It's fresh. It's fresh. It's original. It's authentic, right? It's something that hasn't been thought of before, and we really need that energy coming through right now. Not like struggling for power. This is all the past. Who's gonna be in control, right? It's all based on the past. And there's the creativity, the creative energy. Yeah. And so make that baby step, and then this starts coming through, right? Creativity, the creative energy. Something new. Okay. Okay. So thank you, everyone. I'm just gonna say goodbye. Wood person. I feel like I'm stuck in a bog, like quicksand, right? I know that feeling. That's the force of inertia. And I need to get out, but I can't do it quite yet. Just make a baby step. Make a baby step. Watch that What About Bob? It's a good one. It's funny. Yeah. Okay. So what do I want to leave you with is I think I left you with lots to work with here on this video. So but be sure to practice that meditation. I'll put the link below for the heart, because that's the Google translator, right? It's going to translate your intuition that's coming through your emotions, that feeling tone, and we'll translate it so that you're getting the proper information, right? Okay, so I'll see you next time. And it looks like I'm in a flow every 2 days or so we'll see. Yeah, and I'm really enjoying them. I'm being in the moment, right? I had a few things that I thought I'd talk about, but I'm just surrendering to the now moment, because I'm 3 parts right in my variable from the recorded reading. So that's my power, is just to be present in the moment. Okay, so have a great day or evening wherever you are in the world. Okay, Sat Nam Aloha.